Hello and welcome back to Let's Play the Viceroy. We're going to be on part 5 now, I think. Our third territory will be started. And I've decided to cut the videos up a little bit more from this point, so have probably about half-hour sections, 25 to 35-minute sections. There have been a couple updates to the game since the other parts. For one thing, the when you build stuff, you can right-click instead of drag now, so that should be nice. And I think they doubled the effectiveness of administrative overhead reduction, or bureaucratic overhead reduction. And I'll go to the palace and show the trades again, make sure this is what we want. I think I'm gonna not bother with the rebel income thing. And instead invest those points into science capacity is a good one. Returns of an investment. How does... oh wow. Is that must be for government only, surely. Although, who knows. Straight up more taxes levied would be good. That we can get that to 50% as well. Fleet capacity growth. This is probably a more effective means of fighting the rebels, but still, I don't know if we can really handle that. I do know this would be good, Professor. Getting more science capacity. For one thing, you can just enact the policy to exchange this extra science capacity for bureaucratic overhead, so that's good. I think we will do that, but we're currently sitting at bonus production across the board, 20% reduction in bureaucratic overhead, and a 50% science capacity bonus. So let's confirm that, and let's go through the portal to our new territory. This one's facing an industrial collapse. This once heavily industrialized territory has been left in ruin by an industrial collapse. The challenges caused by this collapse will hinder any attempt to produce industrial goods. Produce industrial goods where possible and other goods elsewhere. Focus on trade efficiency. So this is just like the biological one, except this time we have industrial problems. And what that means is we probably should not focus on industrial production. Now the planets will explain what we should do, really, but let's take a look at the actual individual challenges. Industrial pollution. Truly colossal amounts of air, surface, and water pollution have damaged large swaths of this district's fertile regions. Rivers are choked with debris, forests and fields are strewn with poisonous wastes, and oceans are dark and murky. The actions of biological specialists are substantially hampered, and you can see the specialist multiplier decreased there. Over-specialization. This district's exports have fallen out of favor, but its social structures have not caught up with the changes. The district still attempts to produce the specialized goods it once did and trains people to fill the roles they have always filled in those industries, despite the market for them being long gone, and that's reducing industrial specialists. And lastly, poor local logistics. A combination of logistical incompetence, poor infrastructure, and difficult geography make this district awkward to move goods into. This increased difficulty of moving goods means that it is unusually expensive to bring imports of any kind into this district while these transportation issues remain. And that, of course, is giving us a plus 100% inter-district trade cost. Entrenched monopolies. These are the planetary. The industrial economy of this planet is largely controlled by a series of entrenched monopolies. They use their political power and influence over the markets to protect their corrupt businesses and practices, preventing legitimate competition and slowing economic progress. And that's an industrial specialist penalty. Industrial favoritism. The government of this planet practices blatant favoritism, diverting industrial energies and money to certain politically popular industries. Unfortunately, these beneficiaries are resting upon their laurels, and through inefficiency and waste, suppressing the effectiveness of industrial specialization. And then resource depletion. This planet has been thoroughly stripped of useful materials by previous industrial activities. Its economy faces crippling shortages of basic industrial substances. This makes it difficult to produce industrial goods efficiently, especially in the quantities demanded by advanced civilization. Then lastly, the system level stuff. Hollowed system. The system has been thoroughly strip-mined. Its planets, asteroids, and moons are husks of useless materials scraped to the bone of any useful mass. The entire system suffers under constant raw material shortages that substantially limit the effectiveness of industrial specialization. Only one system is facing that, though, luckily. Industrial embargo. The system is suffering an industrial embargo. It prevents the import of technologies, machinery, capital, and experts from other systems in the Commonwealth that would otherwise aid it in producing industrial goods. These limitations hamper the effects of industrial specialists. And lastly, paradigm shift. The economy of this system was and is geared to a certain form of production that is no longer viable, and never will be again, having been surpassed technologically. The system has not truly woken up to the reality of its circumstances and continues to squander investment in pursuit of the past. So we have, those are fairly large challenges to overcome, but luckily nothing in there was harming cultural production at all. So that's good. Let's take a look at our... So we have a weight of misery. By the way, I figured out how this works. So weight of mortality is obvious. You reduce that by instituting Panarch's mercy across the board so that people no longer die. Weight of misery, you need to get happiness up to 3 in order for people to stop being miserable. So if happiness is at 3 everywhere, nobody will be miserable. That's our goal for promotion here. Let's take a look at the artifact. A fountain of Erdil, named after the explorer who most recently discovered them, is a star-sized structure, which creates a vast fountain of any one of several useful and rare elemental isotopes. It produces this material seemingly without input, though through unknown methods that, according to the Beyonders, have nothing to do with their reality or ours. And that increases the effectiveness of capital transfers by 10%, which is not that great. But basically, for reference, a capital transfer was using part of the government's budget to simply invest in capital, which is then reinvested into the wealth of the populace, directly paying people, essentially, kind of like welfare. Unioneers are in the system. This is an imperial province, and it also has reliquary in it. Let's go ahead and look at the demands of our friend neighbors and stuff. So Unioneers want us to build lots of improvements. We can definitely do that. They want us to build an industrial planet. 300 billion is actually not that much, so we could definitely pull that off in a cultural territory. Now that is kind of what I'm aiming to do. This shouldn't be too hard to complete. Unioneers is definitely doable. So the Imperial Province, we have a scientific planet. That should come naturally as well. An industrial system. This is going to be challenging. And a financial planet. This is the invested capital. That should come naturally as well, along with scientific, because when people's wealth levels go up, they invest more into capital. Now the reliquary. Oh, what was the bonus for that? Industrial infrastructure bonus. Where's that? Is that productivity? Industrial infrastructure in each district. I'm not sure what that means. I'm guessing that's productivity. But then we have the reliquary here. They want us to have a cultural planet. That's the goal. Financial district. That should come naturally. And biological district. That one we're going to have to pursue specifically. But let's take a look at our systems. Clark, Lee, and Sparks. Clark has 34 billion. Lee 28, and Sparks a mere 16. The average wealth on Clark is 1.62, which is quite high actually, especially coming into a system that's being hit with a collapse, whereas Lee 0.67 and Sparks 1.18. So let's take a look at our smallest one first, Sparks. There's 2 planets here, Sparks 1 and Sparks 2. They mostly produce cultural goods here, although biological is a close second. Not very much industrial, as expected. They are suffering from the paradigm shift, all 3 of our systems are. And at the economic level, they do have a biological multiplier system-wide. That's useful. And they have the industrial specialist penalty there. So Sparks 1 has reduced industrial productivity and another specialist penalty. So this could be biological. Cultural productivity is pretty good. Let's take a look at the districts. So we have more industrial. I'm just going to ignore the industrial side of the equation here. Good base productivity and biological, and the free multiplier make this an attractive place to build biological. But let's see what we've got. Ooh, base 3 cultural there. Nothing too exciting there. We will have to cure that if we want that to be biological. Base 3 cultural there, base 3 there, and base 2 here, but with a penalty. So cultural does seem to have higher productivity, but we'll have to keep that in mind. Sparks 2 has a productivity bonus to biological, so that's going to be useful right out of the gate. However, base productivity on cultural is still higher here at 2, it looks like. Although here's a 3. Yeah, this planet suffers from quite a few of these multiplier penalties, but some of these places are good. So Sparks can be a cultural system pretty easily. It could also be a biological system. Good to know. Let's move on to Lee, second most populous system. This one seems to have 4 planets. System-wide has a industrial productivity penalty and specialist multiplier penalty. Also has a bonus from bureaucratic overhead and a penalty at the capital level. They already have quite a bit of capital invested here. And they are mostly a producer of almost exactly even with biological and cultural. Only about less than a billion difference there. So at the planetary level, Lee 1 has a bonus to industrial specialists. Not that that matters, because the reduced productivity is going to make it kind of worthless. Domestic level, nothing, and this planet produces primarily cultural. So let's look at the districts. Good biological productivity. Okay, specialist penalty there. Nothing really too exciting on Lee 1. Probably ignore that for the time being. Lee 2, this planet is getting a bonus to biological specialization. Actually has base productivity that's higher as well. And that's it. Okay, so District 1, nothing exciting. District 2, we do have a base productivity of 3 here. We are going to have to cure that industrial pollution, but this looks like a good system to do biological in, or a good planet rather. A cultural multiplier here that's not that important really. And they are suffering from the extra trade cost penalty here. And lastly, in this one we have a ×3 multiplier out of the gate. So this is probably going to be a good biological planet here in Lee 2. So let's look at Lee 3. Alright, Lee 3 has a population growth bonus. It is a primarily biological producer. And what's the productivities look like here? 2, a 1. Nothing really exciting on Lee 3. And Lee 4, lastly, no industrial productivity here. They've got system-wide and planet-wide penalties, so pretty much worthless there. However, there is a planetary happiness bonus here, and they produce no industrial goods and almost even biological and cultural. So let's take a look at the districts. Good biological, good cultural. Yeah, nothing really exciting on Lee 4. So the Lee system, mildly biological, I would say. Not too much there. Now this is the biggest system, Clark. Most important as well. A base bonus to industrial productivity and no system-wide penalty. That's good. A lot of capital already invested, but of course the rate of return penalty is reducing that. And they make mainly industrial goods here, although it's kind of a diversified thing again. So here we have these are canceling each other out, so we're just dealing with base productivity levels. There is this is canceling out the paradigm shift, Lord Economics, so the base 5% capital is attracting investment to that district. And they produce a pretty good number of industrial goods in this planet, but alright, so this district has really good biological, ×3, and a base 2 industrial. That's good as well. Here, this is another base 2 industrial, base 1 industrial, 2 and 2. Okay. So this planet could be a good industrial world. We do have a lot of penalties at the local level here, though, that are reducing specialist multipliers. So could probably avoid investing in that for now. Clark 2. Whoops, I forgot to look at the planetary stuff. They have an extra influence gain, and they are primarily an industrial producer. So Base 1, ooh, base 3, there's a good industrial production zone right here. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and invest in a multiplier because there are no penalties to industrial production in this place. And do we have... Yes, we do have the inter-district trade penalty. They already spend enough money to justify curing that. And I should also build the trade zapper, because they will be importing more after this turn. This has a biological productivity boost, but a no multiplier there. This has a penalty multiplier here as well. Nothing there. Good here, but we would not be served well by specializing. Leave this unspecialized. And then we have a multiplier bonus here, but no real boon to productivity. So let's get this going on industrial again, because this is a no penalty multiplier, good industrial there, and there's no trade cost issue here either. So there's Clark 2, Clark 3, good cultural here. They have a planetary hospital in orbit, and they are primarily, they're about even across the board actually, so that's a base 3 productivity and culture with no penalty, so that will be a good investment to make. We don't have a multiplier for it yet though, so nothing can be done there. Base 2, base 3 here as well. We're going to want to look into getting a multiplier for cultural as soon as possible. And yeah, nothing too exciting in the rest of Clark 3, and now for Clark 4, the last planet. Good base cultural there, and nothing exciting there, and nothing exciting there. So, they have any other? They have a planetary bureaucratic overhead boost, and they have poor local logistics, of course. Poor local logistics is probably costing us a lot, because all of our stuff is done in system for the most part at this point. Now, before we get into the planetary stuff, let's go to our policies and get our standard stuff in. Peacekeeping. Leave civil religion where it is. We can reduce bureaucratic overhead right out of the gate because we have extra science capacity from our administrative bonuses. But, I don't know if we want to do that. It will help us in the long run, for sure, to do this. Because bureaucratic overhead directly is like money that is, or rather time, that you have left to do what you came here to do. So I'm going to move it to monoculturalism there. And let's start looking at doing improvements. I think the most promising thing we had was sparks for cultural, I think was good. So let's look into getting a cultural boost here. Right now we have 151 billion unused scientific capacity. Imperial Manufactory, this stuff is a cure and gives bonuses, but we don't really want to spend all of the money necessary to cure just so we can be slightly more efficient with it. For now, we're going to look into, let's see, that's a specialist multiplier is what we're looking for. Getting this, this, and this would be good right out of the gate, so let's do that, that, and Palace of the Arts is also useful. Let's pick that up. Okay, let's go into Sparks, and let's just invest in some district level cultural stuff. First off, let's make sure there are no trade cost penalties. place. Because we are going to need... Actually, we'll probably not be importing anything from other districts because it's going to be all off-planet. So there's no purpose in investing in those, really. Now let's just make sure all these are well suited for this. Yes, okay. So then let's start with the most productive. That will be the 3, and there was a 3 here and a 3 here. So these are the ones that are most productive. Let's get all of them going into cultural production. And we want to improve the base productivity first, and then we apply the specialist modifier. We could do that twice. District 6, no. Alright. Improve base productivity, apply specialist multiplier. And we had a 3 here, so productivity, then specialists. Now they're going to be importing a lot, all of their biological and industrial, actually, from elsewhere. So we do want to adjust for that. Now here we can improve to 3 and then do specialist multipliers. And for the time being, we're going to let the other districts, the productivity 1 districts, not specialize, I think. And instead, we'll invest these into Panarch's Mercy in the districts that are going to produce quite a bit. So we have District 2, District 1, District 4, and District 5. Which one of these has the most people? 2.5 there, 2.2 there, 2.43. So this is the most populous. Let's give it Panarch's Mercy. Give District 4 Panarch's Mercy. And District 5 Panarch's Mercy. And we have enough to invest one more time. Let's go ahead and remove inter-district trade cost penalties for now. We'll delete that later, but we're going to leave tech alone. And we spent all of our money. Don't have enough fleet capacity to do anything with. So let's end our turn. Alright. Huge number of wealth level increases across the board. Gave us more tech access. I think about 50 billion or so. And crowding decreases going on there. But let's go back to Sparks 1 and look at the costs here. So they spend 2.29 billion in just inter-district trade costs there, and almost the same amount in interplanetary. So we're going to want to get planetary trade alleviated as soon as possible. Not bother with that at this point. Nothing really worrying there. 2.43 billion in trade needs to be dealt with though. Alright, and now we can take a look at the productivities here. Okay. So I think we'll leave alone the other citizens on this planet for now. And we will consider the fate of Sparks 2. Now this planet has a biological bonus, so it would be good to invest in something that could handle that. Distributed desalination is down this chain. Alright. Intersystem. The interplanetary trade is a space elevator. So we can get to that right now, and we're going to do that even though it's really expensive tech-wise because the trade costs are so high. Let's get started though on, that's a district level upgrade. We're going to move for symbiotic ecosystem when we have more tech available. For now, Sparks 1, we want to save up, I guess, to approve the space elevator project. And see our influence is already climbing here. Let's go to the next turn. Wealth increased again in one of the districts, probably from the trade cost issue. We have enough to build the space elevator, so let's do that. And let's go in and start deleting the district production. So in other words, where are you guys exporting to? On planets, industrial goods. Alright, that means we want to address the productivity issue here and move in for specialist multipliers. And everybody's going in for that. And that's all of our money. We are gonna hit next turn. Crowding increase there. Got an income of 7 billion credits right now. It's pretty good, higher than what we started with at least. Alright, let's look at the trade costs again. Spend 2 billion in inter-district stuff and 3 billion roughly in intersystem. Well, I think we should convert everybody to cultural productivity. I didn't even specialize these guys. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I think I was probably thinking that I didn't want to get rid of all the local production yet because I didn't have a planetary trade thing up. Where is it? Cultural specialist, and let's give them Panarch's Mercy. Let's go ahead and apply that to the other districts in the system. What we want to do is basically have everybody getting pop growth as soon as possible here, so that we can get a good-sized working population to produce more raw goods. So we don't have enough to build anything else. We don't have tech available either anymore. But let's go to next turn. Wealth increase. And our income went up E again, so that's good. Our overhead's still at 0. Okay. So we produce 176 billion cultural from this planet with no other types of production. And do we have all the upgrades everywhere? I think we do. Yes. Alright, these guys produce significantly less. What's their population? They need superscalar towers. And I'm guessing that you do too. Let's just build superscalar towers everywhere because those were an extra happiness bonus here actually. Right now we have raw happiness above the negatives due to the fact that we are not being attacked by rebels yet, but that will be ending very soon. Oh, I think the game crashed. Oh, it certainly did. Well, good part, everybody.